Good morning and welcome to the next event in the Future of Design and Build series, where we look at the Autodesk Construction Cloud. My name is Nathan Brownsword. I'm the sales manager here at Man & Machine. First and foremost, I want to apologise. We were running a few minutes late, just a couple of technical issues. However, we've now been able to get those sorted. So we won't delay you any further in talking to you about the Construction Cloud and, more importantly, looking at the connected workflows through the project lifecycle. In terms of the agenda for today, I am going to be introducing the session. So I'll be able to talk you through just a little bit about Man & Machine, and also in terms of, I suppose, what we've been doing at the moment, the products and services that we offer for customers new in that respect. It'll be good for you to just be able to see and understand a bit more about us before we move on to the actual demonstration itself. I'm just going to try and flick over to my next screen. Sorry about this. We just get through. I'm just working on this at the moment. Sorry about this. So here we go. Apologies. We're finally there now. So in terms of the introduction, like I say, I'll be taking you through in terms of who Man & Machine are. For people that know Man & Machine, but also maybe haven't really worked with us over more recent times, but more importantly, I think for the new faces that are joining us here today. After introduction, we'll move on to the technical demonstration, where I'm joined by Johnny Pye, one of the senior consultants here at Man & Machine, and he'll give you a whistle-stop tour in terms of that connectivity through Autodesk builds and Takeoff in particular. Afterwards, we will be talking about how to deploy these products. At the moment, we've been doing an awful lot of work, both from a piloted point of view, but also working to make sure these are ingrained within organisations that are either new to that kind of common data environment, digital way of working, but also maybe even moving across from products that have been in the market for a little bit longer. There's also an opportunity to ask questions, so please make sure you do. The team are on hand, so make sure that you pick up or you put in the chat box any questions that you do have. We will then look to actually answer them at the end of the session, and we can go through from there. So in terms of Man & Machine, who we are, so as I say, for people that know a little bit about us, or if you've worked with us for some time, it's always good to do a bit of a recap in that respect. So we're split across two primary sectors, really, in terms of the manufacturing side, and also in terms of what my responsibilities lie, and also my colleague Johnny, like the construction, the architectural, engineering space. In terms of the actual organisation, we're part of a much larger entity, so you probably know us as Man & Machine UK, but we are actually spread across all 6 continents globally, and quite a heavy presence in Europe. In terms of the actual splits, you probably see us in terms of, say, Munch & Machine, German-owned company, so we do an awful lot of work within like the DACH region, so to speak, but there are quite a few countries now where we're ever present in terms of supporting our customers. It's really important to mention that, I suppose, in terms of what's going on at the moment, people working remotely, having teams that are overseas, but also in terms of your projects. Appreciate not all of them are in the UK, so having people on the ground that I suppose in terms of being able to communicate, I suppose, across the different language barriers or across languages and different time zones is very, very important, and we're able to help support with that. What that really means in terms of Man & Machine as in terms of our software offerings. I'm sorry, I'm just having a few issues again with my clicker. I'm just going to try and move over to the next screen. See if we get going. We'll try one more time. There we go. 3 times a charm. So in terms of the technology, how that actually sits with us in terms of what we do, a lot of our offerings have actually they sit primarily within the Autodesk portfolio. We know Autodesk very, very well. We're their fastest growing partner within the UK. We're their largest partner across Europe by a country mile, and also now globally. So in terms of our knowledge around Autodesk, we've been working for a number of years. We are their largest partner. We also have a partnership on their construction program and seen as one of their elite partners globally. So that means that we have people that we are able to actually understand not only the software, but also in terms of your business, and more importantly, make that transition and make it viable for you to move on to these tools. I appreciate some of the accolades and banners are for good for man and machine, but in terms of what that means for you, I suppose it's a safety net, actually having people that know technology very, very well, and have implemented it time and time again. So we know the core offerings, the docs in terms of the cloud platform. Appreciate more and more people are getting used to that and have been using that, given the different licensing model that's now in play. But how that then starts to branch out in terms of the collaboration tools, we are going to cover a couple of those today in Build and Takeoff, but also in terms of the kind of day-to-day software, your authoring tools, your native authoring tools, your Revit, your AutoCADs, and also other functionality that's available in the AC collection. We know it very, very well. This also sits quite nicely on the manufacturing side, and the reason we're always so keen to actually talk about this is because the growing demand for product manufacturers to deliver BIM models for products that go out into the kind of, like, I suppose, involved in the construction and putting a building together. We are helping them actually get ready for this transition and what's really coming. So it's always important, because I think we've always talked about better connectivity in construction, and I think that now we're even starting to plug into manufacturers or product manufacturers and getting that level of detail, that level of information that you require on your models, and being able to actually then produce it for your clients on the projects. In terms of the connectivity between these different softwares, again, there's a lot of work that's going in behind the scenes in terms of connecting APIs and being able to actually automate different parts of your workflow. So again, we're involved in that at a moment in time, and again, it's something that's we're starting to see more and more requests come in from us, especially around the cloud platforms and other systems that are running within your business. Just to talk about what's going on at the moment in industry, I think that it's always something that I quite enjoy talking about. I think there's definitely been a real change within construction. It's due to a number of factors. I think sustainability at the moment in the UK and how much carbon is being emitted from projects is an ever-growing conversation in that respect. You only have to look as far as the news in terms of whether it's good or bad in that respect, or your opinions are on that. There's certainly pressure coming in terms of how the construction industry plays its part in the greener future. And these are all linked, really. It can be from a point of sustainability, looking at BIM processes and actually producing all this information that can then form a digital twin, and then into facilities management. The technology that starts to play a part, it's quite an interesting one in terms of the caption and bottom left with the drones and actually doing site surveys with robots, or people being able to actually collect information from huge and very vast sites. So there's an awful lot going on at the moment, and I think that myself, the team here, I know Johnny's about to come on screen very shortly, have been involved in a lot of these projects. So whilst there's certainly a conversation to be had here today in terms of the Autodesk Construction Cloud, I think it'll be great to hear from you. And if there's anything that you need from us, I suppose there's a safety net there in the sense that we are supporting our customers with these challenges, and they're becoming, I suppose, ever increasingly familiar in that respect. So by all means, if there's something away from what we're talking about today, please feel free to get in touch. How our services actually support some of these areas. So you start to see that in terms of our training program. We also have our actually BIM focused training, our BIM ready services and training program. I will talk about an event a little later on today that we're running in a few weeks' time or a couple of weeks' time. That links very nicely into some of the things that we're doing at the moment. But we have all of the capability to support, train, consult on everything that you've just seen on screen today. So all of the products and services there, we have engineers that are able to train and support your business. I appreciate there are some niche products in that respect, but we are starting to see that we can support them, be it in a standard point of view, like our standard courses, or what we often do is actually understand your learning objectives and put a plan in place for you. Other areas that we can support you with as well, I mentioned the tech care support side, having someone that's industry experienced, knows the technology that's available, I suppose more often than not at the first time of calling, but also more importantly, it's unlimited in terms of its usage in that respect. So we start to have a lot of other areas how we support kind of like the back end and the day-to-day in that respect, and a lot of what you see on screen. I'm not going to go into full detail of all of those, but if you do want to know more, feel free to get in touch. In terms of what we're actually looking at today, I'm just going to try and click through again. Sorry about this. I think we're nearly there. I'm hoping this will be the last of the issues. So if I try and click through, there we go. So with in terms of what we're talking about today, the Autodesk Construction Cloud, you may have joined us earlier on in the series of the Future Design and Build events, where we looked at design collaboration and actually the data management, the docs that underpins this. We're going to move through to kind of like the later stages in terms of like the projects, and also when people have started to use the Autodesk Construction Cloud umbrella, but for people out on site, for actually look at costing, for estimating, and we're going to look at two specific sites here. Within this, what we're going to focus on is Autodesk Build. We're going to have a very detailed overview in terms of the different features within Autodesk Build, but also in terms of Autodesk Takeoff. I know that Johnny really likes Autodesk Takeoff in terms of the functionality there, but it's very much a new technology that's come into the market. So we're starting to actually learn about it more weekly, really, or if not daily in that respect. There's been more and more that we're getting information-wise from our customers on why this technology is actually plays a pivotal role in terms of the information you're not only collating, but then being able to actually harness from there. I hope you enjoy the session today. I am going to hand over to Johnny in a couple of seconds. Feel free to, like I say, get in touch. You've got the chat box there, so fire through questions. We will try and answer as many as we can at the end of the session. And if we don't get back to you, then look, feel free to actually call in, email the team, and I will be back with you very shortly. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so I believe my PowerPoint's working as well. Sorry about the technical difficulties today. Just one of those things when you're trying to connect all of the machines together, is always going to be something that comes up. So we should be fine from now on. I'm just going to be sharing my screen. If anyone can't hear me, or if it's not clear or anything like that, if you just put something in the chat, just so we know that everything we're doing, you can see okay. So you should be looking at the PowerPoint at the moment on the front screen. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be introducing the product technically. I'll be running through all of the functionality in it as well. Probably a lot of the demonstration I do will be on my mobile phone. If I can get it, I'm hoping it will work. I think it's probably one of the issues we've had is actually kind of sharing the mobile device to the computer. So a little bit about myself. This is the only picture you're going to see of me while I'm doing a demonstration, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, maybe. But a bit about my background. I did a product design degree, structural and civil and technical consultant here at Man & Machine. So I've got quite a diverse background, kind of been through several different industries and seen things from a lot of different points of view. What we're going to be looking at today is going to be Autodesk Build predominantly and Autodesk Takeoff. Now, Autodesk Docs does underpin Autodesk Build. So there will be some important aspects that I will cover in Autodesk Docs, but really there's not going to be too much that we cover in it, just because the focus today really is on the kind of construction side of things and how Autodesk Build and Autodesk Takeoff are really kind of products that are going to help you get more accurate kind of things from site or to site and things like that. So just to talk about quickly about why you might be using these products and kind of some of the things in industry at the moment that might be coming up kind of thing. So, I mean, tight schedules, when you're on a construction project, typically you are going to be running to tight schedules. You're going to need answers back quite quickly, and you're going to need to capture the information quickly and also have those answers quickly. You're going to have potentially siloed information. When I was working in the civil arena, I would find quite a lot of the time that perhaps I'd go to site and maybe I'd be looking for a piece of information that was put down on a piece of paper, and I have to find the person who had photocopied the piece of paper or find exactly where that had gone. So quite siloed information sometimes. Potentially, there could be issues with labor at the moment. Teams being distributed, so definitely something at the moment that might be an issue if you've got people perhaps not going to site, working remotely, whether that's a design team that might be needing to share information, etc. Teams generally are quite distributed these days. So these are some of the things in the industry that might be coming up that these kind of products might help with in terms of perhaps increased collaboration. So teams being able to better communicate with each other, making sure that single source of truth is there, the golden thread, making sure if you take a photo, you know the reason why it was taken and what it's attached to. A better connected 2D and 3D experience. A lot of projects now are utilizing 3D environments, and why not take advantage of that on site? Why not be able to leverage that extra work that you're doing perhaps in other areas across the board? Improved accuracy, so always important, make sure that things are delivered on time to site perhaps, and then actually installed accurately. Standardization, so we need to make sure that a lot of the processes we have, there is standardization to them so that everybody is putting the same information in and it's very easy to find perhaps moving forward. And then last of all, probably one of the main points that I want to stress when we're doing today's session is digitization. So like the comment I made earlier about paper, moving to digitization just means that we have the information easily searchable, indexed, and we can really drill down into exactly what's going in on our sites. So the value of Autodesk Builder is really connecting the teams, connecting the workflows, and connecting the data. We're going to see that every aspect of today in terms of how this product works. If you find something on a drawing and you want to know exactly what's in the background of maybe an issue, that could be connected to a form, that could be connected to a photo. And if you find any one of those things, you can follow the information everywhere that it's gone. So some of the things that Autodesk Build comes with, just to really kind of talk about the product itself, obviously document management underpins it also. Autodesk Docs is a big part of Autodesk Build. There is a very large cost management module that actually comes with Autodesk Build. We're not going to be demonstrating that today, but if you are interested in the cost management module, like I say, it is a very, very big product actually, in terms of what it can do and how it can connect into the workflows that we're looking at today. Project management, so if we're looking at RFIs, submittals, meeting minutes, those kind of things, are going to be a part of Autodesk Build as well. And then the main bulk of Autodesk Build is going to be things like forms. So that will include quality, safety, and actually something that has been added very recently in terms of functionality, which is so recent I haven't actually put it into the PowerPoint, is the ability to create as-built or an as-built output. The idea being that you can essentially take everything that has gone to site along with submittals, RFIs, and output that as one lump file for a handover or just an as-built file format. So talking about the product itself and just kind of positioning it. So Autodesk Build we'll look at quickly first and what it can do. So some of the things functionality wise inside of it, you've got things like checklists or forms, issue checking, daily logs, meeting minutes. It really covers the full suite of things that you'll need to do on a construction site. So when you're looking at these kind of things and digitizing, you're looking at faster work, reducing the kind of rework that you might be doing on site. And when you're digitizing, being able to make things easily findable and searchable. And like I said, we will be looking at the mobile app predominantly in this session, mainly because a lot of the things that we would be doing with this system would be getting information from site back to the office. But I will be doing, first of all, demonstration of the vice versa of that. So other things that we can do, obviously we can view drawings. The latest drawings very easy to find on the system. There's a very nice workflow to make sure that you've always got that latest version. And there's ways of linking every piece of information that you create to a drawing or adding the drawing to the issue or however way you want to connect information together. It's always possible in Autodesk Build. So yeah, making sure you've got the latest drawing, creating issues and markups, comparing drawing versions is also a very big feature inside of this. So perhaps you're on site, you've seen a drawing from a week ago and you've got a new one. Hasn't really been described to you exactly what the change is. That is something that you can actually check on a mobile app. So you can overlay the drawings and just see what the changes actually are. And that's really going to give you some trust in what you're actually kind of constructing. One of the other really interesting functions of Autodesk Build is smart PDFs. So I will be demonstrating this, and this is the ability to take PDFs, turn them into what's called a smart PDF, and fill that PDF in as though you would on site, as if it was a piece of paper. So this actually makes the change from your perhaps traditional workflow where you're using paper much more easy if you're looking to digitize things. And then obviously with that as well, you can add things like documents and photos. And there is actually a module as well included in this that will allow you to track assets, which is also a very good feature. So that's a bit about Build. We'll have a quick look at Takeoff. Takeoff is not going to be as big a part of this demonstration, but we will include it because it does include things that would be perhaps important when you are looking at sending things to site, making sure that you have the right materials and the right cost on the project. So the Takeoff module is a completely separate module, first of all, just to say as well. It doesn't come with Build, but it allows you to create complex takeoffs. You can save time, and the reason it's going to save time is because you've got the latest version of things. There's actually ways of being able to take your takeoffs, check the new versions of things, and then decide whether you need to change your takeoff based on the new drawing that you might have received. The other reason it's very useful as well is because you can work in a team on takeoffs. So there's ways of being able to create packages and then work as a group, or if you've got to get a takeout out quickly, you can kind of work as a team to be able to make sure that you're getting your takeoffs done in time. And the traditional workflows exist. So if you are used to using 2D, you can actually use Takeoff to do your takeoffs in 2D. But obviously, like I was mentioning earlier, a lot of the time on projects now, we have a 3D model. We have the ability to be able to take apart our models that we've got in Takeoff and do a takeoff directly from the model. The drawings are created from the model, and therefore if there's going to be a mistake perhaps on the drawing, there is probably going to be a mistake in the model. So we're trusting the drawings, we're trusting the models. There is a bit of discipline in terms of making sure that the models are suitable and what you're taking off is going to work for the takeoff you're creating. But you've got that model. It's a really useful piece of information that you can use to do takeoffs much more quickly. Other little details inside of it as well, there is the option for multiple classifications. And obviously with the system, you can do a takeoff anywhere. You could just open up your laptop, someone else's laptop, log in and do a takeoff somewhere else. You've got all the information you need somewhere else as well. You're not stuck or confined perhaps to the office or a computer where you have traditionally perhaps where you've stored your drawings or things that you've been doing takeoffs with. So just to summarize and finish off my PowerPoint, there's something that I like about pretty much all the systems from Autodesk, and that's the power of the data that you're putting into it. On a project, you're going to be collecting lots and lots of data. And perhaps as an executive, you need to make sure that you can interrogate that data. Or as a project manager, make sure that you can interrogate the data that's being collected. And there's lots of different ways to be able to do this inside the systems. So on a kind of ground level, a project manager has in Autodesk Build the ability to be able to have a homepage with activities that are happening. So things like overdue issues, sheets on the project, whether everybody actually has the app on their phone up to date with the latest drawings, they can see that. The weather, a little project progress bar as well. So really useful for a project manager who just needs to be able to control what's happening on a project. Taking all that data that you're getting into the project and summarizing it so at the beginning of the day, you can decide what you're going to focus on. Other things that you can do in this would be perhaps moving towards maybe archiving information just so you have it on record. You can create reports from most of the data inside of Autodesk Build, and in fact, other parts of the platform as well, which you can schedule. So every Monday, if you want a report of a specific issue or issues being created, you can schedule it out and automatically get reports sent to you. And that can include things like photos, issue details, connections forms, and things like that, which could be really useful if you're looking perhaps include that in quality procedures or audits or things like that. And it's automated. So you can just get it sent to you when you need it. You can get it to stop reporting actually when you want it to stop reporting as well. And then moving on to kind of the more global options. So that's actually the picture of the scheduling report. Moving on to more global options inside of the system. There are data extractions. There is actually what's called construction IQ in the system, which will look at the issues you're getting, quality issues, perhaps RFIs and submittals. And what it can do is it can look at the actual companies on the project that are maybe getting issues again and again and again, and give you risk factors. It can give you information about what's actually maybe things you need to focus on in the project, or particular companies that you really need to kind of maybe spend a bit of time either training or perhaps looking at maybe increasing their capacity if they're overworked, but really drilling down in the data and making sure that you have a clean output of information for you to be able to make decisions on quickly. So like I say, there is also what's called the data connector within the system, which allows you, if you're using things like Power BI, or if you have other analysis software, to be able to take all the data out of the system and then create nice, neat graphs and really communicate things on a much more global scale with all of the projects. But the idea at its heart is that the information that you're creating on these projects is connected. If you've taken a photo that's attached to a form or an issue, you can follow that photo through to the form. You can find everything or the reason why everything has happened on the project. So 5 years down the line, you can always go back into your project. It's very easy to just follow the data and to connect that data all in together. So that's a bit about Autodesk Build and some of its functionality. We'll jump into the technical demo now and just have a look at the system itself. So like I say, the way that I'm going to lay this out is to begin with, I'm going to be doing predominantly a demonstration on the browser interface, and then I will move to my phone for the next part of the demo. So just get this up. So if you're not familiar with perhaps Autodesk Docs, there might be a few things in here that might be just happening, but what I've actually got here is, if you've been following the Future of Design and Build sessions we've been doing, I've actually worked all the way in the same project, and this could be looking at when we're actually going to construction, I suppose. We've done the design, we've done some collaboration work, we've got the models, and now what we need to do is we need that information to go to site for us to actually construct the building. So looking at what we've got in the build side of things, what I'm going to just quickly do is just head to my project home, so I can kind of start from the landing page in this, so you can kind of see the forefront of where your projects actually lie. So we're looking at the Autodesk Construction Cloud. I'm hosting, or I have lots of projects that I have access to. I'm going to find the project that I actually want to work on today, which is the Future of Design and Build London offices. Like I said, it's the one that we've actually been doing in every single one of the Future of Design and Build. So we've actually followed a project all the way through from sort of conception to construction. And like one of the things that I'll show here as well is the ability to be able to get the information out of this system, so that when it comes to handover, it's made a lot easier as well. So we're in the project, we're looking at the build module. Like I said, we will be looking at Takeoff, and we've already covered in the previous Future of Design and Build sessions, docs, design collaboration, and model coordination. So looking at the build module and the home page we've got here, this is, like I say, really where you can find out as a project manager what's going on in your project. So we've got things like the amount of issues perhaps that are overdue, submittals and RFIs that are ongoing in the project. And these are all metrics that I can click through too. So I can actually just click on my overdue issues and I can see all of them summarized for me. It automatically puts those filters on and allows me then just to kind of quickly see any issues that need to be reconciled or kind of fixed quickly. Maybe just having a quick detailed look at things that are important to me. We also have on here, quite usefully as well, a mobile sync status. So if you've got lots of people out on site, you need to be kind of, well, you just need to know that they've got the latest drawings. If there's drawings continuously being evolved, that the project is always being added to, then that is particularly kind of how things work. You can actually see whether your team are all up to date. So you'll be able to see in here the mobile sync status. And if you saw something like 50% or 20% and you had a team of 20, you'd probably be looking at sending out a message just to say to everyone, make sure that you mobile sync. You actually can't get into the project without syncing. So if you see that this is not synced, then it would be kind of strange anyway. You can also see all the recent activity, and you can filter by certain things as well. So if you were interested in, say, just seeing the latest drawings that have been released recently, you've got that just in here. So you can see some new sheets have been published to the sheets area, which we'll be looking at in a second, but it's where we should be storing all of the latest drawings and construction record drawings as well. So yeah, a really nice page, really just to understand what's happening in the project, make some decisions for the day, find out what's new, find out if there's anything I need to do in terms of the teams that I'm working with or the teams that I'm controlling, about the best way to sort of manage those things. What I'm going to do is I'll just quickly work through the parts of this that I will want to show you on the laptop, and then I'll go into a mobile device so you can see what it looks like for somebody on site. So one of the things that I might need to do, perhaps from the office, is to actually share the latest drawings. And one of the ways to do that is from the sheets, or it is the sheets area. The sheets area should contain everything that people on site are going to need to construct the building or to use on site. And there's some really nice workflows within here to be able to get my drawings from the designs I'm doing into this sheets area. So I'm going to be doing a live upload of some PDFs. I'm also just going to quickly show how you can, again, leverage the models you're creating inside of this platform to be able to get the information into the sheets area as well. So what we're looking at here, just to quickly have a look at the sheets area, is it should be all of the latest drawings on the project. So all of these will be easily findable. I'll be able to search through anything. Everything inside of here is indexed as well. I've got lots of options in terms of filtering. So if I'm looking for a specific discipline, or if I'm looking for something that's been tagged specifically, maybe it's the fire drawings, I've got loads of different ways to be able to find exactly what I'm looking for. And I'll be able to do this on my mobile device as well. So just quickly talking about the options in terms of publishing to this area. So if you've been following the Future of Design and Build, you'll be aware of Autodesk Docs and the files area. So what I have in the files area is I'll have models, and perhaps one of the things that I'll want to do from here is I don't want to have to publish to PDF. I actually want to just publish directly from my Revit model. I'm not going to do this because it does take a little while and I have a few drawings that I would need to publish from here, but I will just demonstrate one of the ways that you can really leverage that kind of 3D Revit workflow to the sheets area. So what I can do here is if I just quickly look at what I've got in my files area here, I've got a Revit model. If I just quickly go into this Revit model and show what we've got. As a designer, perhaps, or as somebody who's managing this data, perhaps I know that there's some drawings in here that I need to publish. So we've got our model, and what I can just quickly do is just have a quick look at what we've got in here. I've got a series of drawings as well. I could just quickly have a look at what's actually changed between the last version and this one. Perhaps if I'm a document controller, this might be important to me, whether this is a 2D sheet or a 3D model. But I just going to want to see what the changes have been between these two, the last version and this version. So there's been a few changes. What I can actually do is just filter down, just have a double check on what this is going to be. So in here, I've got a couple of doors that look like they've just been moved around, things like that. And then what I can actually do as somebody who perhaps needs to get the latest drawings into the sheets area for someone on site to actually use, I can actually select that model from the files area here, and I can then just publish these. And that will publish the sheets within the Revit model directly to the sheets area. So this is actually PDFing the sheets from Revit, which is a really interesting functionality. You don't need Revit to be able to create those PDFs from it. So it's a really direct workflow, if you like. Not for everybody. Obviously, PDF has its place, but definitely if you're looking at quite a progressive project, then that is a really nice option to be able to just take those sheets directly from the Revit model and push those into the sheets area. The other option, of course, is if you have the PDFs or if you've created the PDFs and you then need to upload to the Sheets area. I'll just quickly show you some functionality in here that allows you to do that. So if I need to add some sheets, you can actually push PDFs also directly from the files area into the Sheets area as well. I'm going to be doing this from my local just because I've created some PDFs to be able to do this. It's really just so you can see some of the nice things that you've got as a document manager, controlling the information that's actually going to the Sheets area. So I'm going to grab some PDFs that I've got on my desktop, like I say, grab these two that I've got here. These are drawings that I actually already have. They have some changes on them. So hopefully what we're going to be looking at is when I open the app, perhaps I'm on site, I've been building off some of these drawings, or I've been building some of the basics off these drawings. I need to know what the changes were in the drawings. So I'm going to be able to compare what the changes were once I've actually uploaded these. So I'm going to pop these up here. I'm only doing two because this is a live demo and I will be strangling my internet if I do anything more. But one of the nice things about this system is that when you're uploading these, you've actually got an OCR scanner. So you'll be savvy with the OCR scanner if you've come across BIM 360 or if you've used BIM 360. So the process that I've gone through here is you can choose to add a status or a set to these. What's going to happen then is it's going to ask you how you want to name them. You've got actually quite a lot of options as somebody who might need to do a larger scale kind of upload of documents. So the two documents I've got here, what I can do is I can set both of them. And I know these are named correctly. There is actually a file naming system inside of Autodesk Docs that allows you to make sure that the documents you pop into it are named correctly. So if these were named correctly anyway, I could just say I want to use the file name from the sheet. That's one option. The other option is I can actually just draw the sheet number from the title block. So I've got this number here. I can draw around it. I can save this and it's just going to take the information directly off the sheet. So that would be quite useful if you've got documents perhaps that you're working on that have been sent to you and you know they've been named a bit kind of funny before you go into the Sheets area. And there is actually then different options in terms of perhaps how you want to name them. You can edit with rules. There's just a lot of options for Document Manager to make sure that the name that's going into the Sheets area is correct. So I've got this named correctly now. I've used the OCR scanner to do this. I could have used the name. And I've got exactly the same option when it comes to the naming of the description, the sheet title itself. Now, the reason these are actually filled in correctly immediately is because I used the OCR scanner on the previous sheets. The OCR scanner in this system is pretty clever. If you've done a title sheet once, it remembers the title sheet and it will just then look for the same position that you put in. So in this case, it's literally just looked in the same place again for those two sheet titles. So there's a lot of automation here. And once you start going, you'll find that if you've used the OCR scanner, you really don't need to actually draw the title sheet very often. So once I've got these two, I can publish the sheets. And what should happen is these are going to not overwrite, but they will upversion the two sheets that are already in the system. And so I'll have a new version on top of each other that I can use. So you can see here, these are actually version 3. So in the system with a PDF, I've got all those versions that I can view, I can compare, I can actually see what the changes are between them on the browser. But I'll be able to do this as well when it comes to actually looking at this on the mobile browser as well. So when I'm comparing them, what it does is it overlays the two on top of each other and just shows you exactly what the changes are between version 4 or S2 in this case and S4. So we've got some doors that have moved. We've got a couple of doors that have been added down here at the bottom. And we've had a door moved here as well. So really nice ways of actually seeing what's changed in a drawing. Cool. So that's the Sheets area. The way that the system is actually licensed does kind of lean on the Sheets area at the moment. So there are sometimes limits to the amount of sheets that you can have in the system. But essentially what we've got here is the ability to be able to have the latest drawing within the system and available to anybody on site. There are certain permission settings as well. I'm not going to go into too much detail. because we could be here for quite a while, kind of going through all of the backdoor options in terms of this. One of the things that I will just quickly mention is the ability to be able to create. So if I just go to my advanced settings and have a quick look at disciplines, I can actually add disciplines, specific disciplines to the sheets as well if I wanted to in here. So this is just another way of grouping the sheets. I've actually not done that with these, but it allows you to really quickly find, and you can customize them, the architect's drawings, mechanical drawings, or if you've got very specific subdisciplines to be able to find those as well. So I will do more on this when it comes to the app. What I'm going to quickly do is just run through a couple more things in here that would be things that I might be doing on the browser rather than perhaps in the app. There's actually a lot that you're going to be doing from the app anyway. So we've already had a look at the files area. The files area is just a mirror of what you'll have in Autodesk docs. So we don't need to go too much into detail of here. You'll be aware that the system is folders. It's a folder structure. You've got a very granular permission options in here. You can essentially invite one person to a folder and they could just have access to that one folder. And they've got the option at that point then. You've got the option to allow them to view only, view and download, publish markups and upload. So a really granular and very easy permission-based to be able to control who sees what and at what point, and giving access very easily if you need to other parts of this as well. So if I'm looking at my work in progress area, you're hopefully only going to see that based on role, I've actually got the structural engineer assigned to the structures folder, electrical to electrical, and architects to architects. And this is a role-based permission. So if any new architects came into the project who are assigned as architect, they'll just automatically get, in this case, edit control to this folder. So really nice permissions in the system. Really nice to be able to control who sees what and when. So some of the other things that we'll quickly run through, just because they are very pertinent to perhaps do before you sort of go to site, is the forms area within here. So forms are going to be things like safety, quality, daily reports, anything that you go to site and you've got a sort of basic list of questions that you need to kind of go through, perhaps take photos, connect to other parts of the project. That's really what the forms area is all about. And within Autodesk Build, there's two options when you create a form. Well, one of the more important things that you're going to need to do to begin with is really trying to create the templates in your project to actually for those forms. So one of the things that you would do on a browser is you would go through this and you'd make sure that you created your templates for your forms. So in here, I've got a few templates to be able to use. And what this means is that anybody on site who has access and permissions to the forms area can just start one of these forms. And they have a list of questions in them that will then need to be answered. Now, having a look just quickly inside some of these templates that we've got, there's two different ways that you can create a form. So I mentioned in the PowerPoint at the beginning that you have what are called smart PDFs. And so if I use this GC01 site organization, you can see here I have a PDF. And just to demonstrate just quickly what that looks like in terms of an actual form, and this is just on the browser, I will also do this on a phone. I'm going to create form, choose my GC01. What the PDF is going to look like is essentially exactly how it would look like on a piece of paper. It's just a PDF that I can then go through and tick and make sure I filled in. A lot of the information you can actually get it to fill in automatically. So the things like company name, these are all coming from, I'm logged in as me, I'm part of Man & Machine, therefore my company name is Man & Machine. So there's a lot of time savings with little things that you might need to do where people are filling in sort of the information you've got here. And you know it's going to be correct because they're the ones filling it in. The location is based on the project location. The project title is based on the project title. So this is going to be very consistent and easy to find because the information is actually just coming from the project itself. So you can use your PDFs essentially is kind of the gist of what we're getting at here. If you had your forms, say audited, approved, you're going to want to use the same forms that you've always used. And so being able to use that smart PDF just means you can essentially go from paper to digital very, very easily. The other option as well that you've got in the system is to be able to create a more rigid structured. So if you're not necessarily needing to use a PDF, then you can create forms in the form of just questions. So yes, no answers. And essentially, you're not using a PDF, you're using a kind of, like I said, a rigid structure. You're just filling in what the question is. Is it going to be a pass fail? Is it going to be a yes, no? Is it a text comment that you need to reply to this with? But having those two options really means you can cover your bases. Maybe some of your forms you can use this system, or you could just use PDFs for everything. If everybody on site has been used to that paper copy for the last 20 years, you can use that paper copy by turning it into a smart PDF and then using it on the projects. And once you create it once, you can just reuse that on every project. So if anyone's thinking, oh, well, I've created these in this project, can I get into the next project? That is possible within the system. And then looking at some of the other kind of features that would perhaps be done on the computer side, and also looking at some of the other functionality, this system is very good at organizing photos. So if we were taking a lot of photos on site, one thing that has been added more recently is AI, essentially. It's looking at the photo and it's going, oh, there's this in the photo. And if you've worked on a construction project, and I've gone to site and I've taken a lot of photos, you can find that they have funny names. They're not really kind of very easy to find, perhaps sometimes. But within the system, it's really easy to see what things are attached to. So if I just click on this picture here, I'll be able to see any references. So if this is relating to a drawing, or if this was relating to a form, I can go through the photo and get to the form. I've also got the option in here as well to see where the photo is taking. So it uses the geolocation of the photo to show you where the photo is taken, which is absolutely awesome if you've got big projects and you want to be able to quickly find the photos in there. And like I say, the newest feature of this system is the fact that it will automatically tag photos. It will go through the photos, it will look for things that it recognizes, and it's a learning machine, essentially, and it will just automatically tag them. So if I just have a quick look down this list, I'll just find something. So there's a toilet at the end here. I haven't tagged that. It's just automatically found a picture of a toilet and automatically tagged it as toilet. So you can imagine that if you're on this project and you're looking for something very specific, rebar or coping or something like that, might not be perfect. Someone might not have tagged it perfectly, but you can actually use the automated tags that have been created to quickly find what you're looking for. So that's a really nice new feature. It's in beta at the moment, so it is being improved upon, but as far as I can tell, it does work quite well at the moment. So deals very well with photos, and like I say, really going back to my PowerPoint, the idea of the information all being connected is really important. Being able to follow that photo through to whatever it's attached to is very important, and not just being an isolated photo. So other features, and we will cover these. The system also includes the ability to be able to create RFIs. The reason I really like the RFI workflow in the system is actually because right at the top, and that's a really small thing, but it does tell you exactly where in the workflow that RFI actually is. So it's been submitted by someone, and perhaps that RFI, we're just asking about the specifications. It's already been to the reviewer in this case, and I can actually see it's in the answer and approve section. So this is where the person who needs to look at this and go, yeah, that's correct. I'm going to close and distribute my response, can then just hit close and response, or return to the reviewer with another question. Which specs are you actually referring to? Things like that. So very easy and nice workflow in here. We also have submittals. So kind of, I guess, where I like to look at this is a bit like your project is a meal and you are building your needle of your recipe and your ingredients. And so submittals are perhaps the way of making sure you get the right ingredients for your project. The way that this works is you've got your items. So this might be specific amounts of concrete or a specific specification for concrete. And then you can group all of those together into packages. So if I've got several types of concrete that I'm looking to actually push through as a submittal and get approved, I can do that. Or say plasterboard, I've got lots of different types of plasterboard here. I'm maybe looking for a specific company that I'm looking to buy that parcel from, and I just need to get it approved. I've got the option and ability to be able to create submittals with all of that information in it. And again, the workflow at the top is very much the same as the RFIs, a timeline that shows you exactly where it is in the process, who it's with as well. So I can see if I was to submit this particular item, it's going to go to me. I'm actually doing a lot on this project. Then it can go to review and then close and distribute again. And there are various options, RFIs and submittals. There's actually a couple of different options in terms of the workflows you want to use. But my personal opinion of just the basic ability to be able to see this timeline, where something is at, especially if it's important, is something that you can glance at and automatically know this kind of needs to be done. Why has it not been done? So I've actually kind of got today to do this. So that's a bit about RFIs and submittals. Other features as well that we've got in here, meetings. So if you have site meetings, if you've got perhaps maybe daily safety meetings or things like that, then this allows you to essentially create a meeting. You can send an Outlook, the ability to send an Outlook, an ICS file, so people can just add this to their Outlook very easily. You've actually now got the ability in here to be able to connect Microsoft Teams and Zoom links into the meetings as well. But the idea being really that you have all the information on the project from those meetings in here, searchable, findable, and noted so that you can go back to anything if something comes up. And there's really nice ways in here to be able to assign specific things to people, add photos and references to individual kind of meeting discussion points. And like I said, it's really just so you've got all of that stuff in one place, easy to get back to, easy to find, and just a really nice place to take notes of your meetings that you've got. One thing I will, I'll show the last two in here and then I'll move on to my mobile app. I'm just a bit worried about opening it up and seeing if it works. So I kind of want to go through everything in here first. So the schedule area here, this is quite a new feature actually. So if you've got things like Primavera files or projects files or Asta files, you might want to have that schedule within this system for somebody to use. And essentially, this is what the schedules area is actually for. So I've got an example here. It's a little bit dated, so ignore the dates on here. 2008 was a little while ago now, but it was the only projects file I could find. But it gives you an idea of what this is doing. So I've imported a projects file. It's read that file. And what I can do then from this point of view is I still work in projects. I still update that projects file and then re-import it and update the schedule at the top here. But what this allows me to do is, I don't know, let's say I'm working on this secure, let's find something that's a bit more construction related. Well, let's say I'm working on finalizing these plans or I'm reviewing and finalizing these specifications. I can actually connect information to my timelines in here. So I can connect things like files, photos, issues to parts of my Gantt chart. And this also gives people a view of what's actually, how the project's progressing, and then information that relates to those specific tasks, perhaps in the project. And what you'll notice at the beginning of this is you can break your schedules down. You can put as many schedules in here as you want. So you could have much smaller kind of task or team-based task Gantt charts where you've got overview of all of the issues, all of the photos, any forms. You could put the forms in here and then run the forms, make sure the forms are attached to the tasks. And you've just got everything again in one nice, easy to use place. There's various different ways of viewing this. So you can view just the Gantt chart. You can view everything in a list format. You've got date ranges that you can add in here as well. So it's really nice if you are creating things like project files or Asta files, and someone else is doing that over there. You can just bring that into the system and have that as a kind of centralized Gantt chart that people have a view of as well. And again, really just making sure all that information is just available when you need it. So the last thing I will show in here, and I will go into this on the mobile app as well, is the assets area. So the assets area is essentially where if you've got things on site that you need to keep an eye on. So for example, we've got some air-cooled chillers here. Maybe you go to site and you do an installation inspection on this, or you're doing maintenance checks, perhaps even, then you can again add references to your assets. So an example of where we've used this recently with a customer is they do a lot of forms and checklists in flats, and buildings, and things like that. And so we've actually used the categories and assets in here for the flats, and then they can put all their forms against each flat, and they can really easily see what's being done, what needs to be done, and when they export all of this, it's all going to be together under each flat type. All of this is very easily searchable as well. So if you're looking for a specific thing, you can really easily find exactly what you're looking for. And there's lots of other information here, like when has it been installed, the functional, whether it's been accepted, installed. You can actually customize the status in this with customized colors as well. So again, another way of making sure all the information is nice and kept together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump onto the mobile app. Now, I am going to be doing Takeoff back in the browser, so I will be heading back to the browser to do the Takeoff demo, but I'm going to be doing the rest of this demonstration from my mobile. So you can imagine maybe we're going to site, we've got those new drawings. This is where technology hopefully it works in my favor. Just going to screen mirror. Looks like it will work. So I'm using an iPhone, but this will work on Android as well. So the app I'm using is called PlanGrid Build. So this is originally was the PlanGrid app. You actually have access to your PlanGrid project and your build projects. So you can see here, what I'm going to need to do is I just need to update this project, make sure that I've got those latest drawings, just sync everything onto the device. And this is really just to make sure that you have the latest drawings. So this is something you would do before you go to site. And then I can go through into this project. Again, you don't have to download all the projects you've got. You can see here, there's a lot of projects that I have not downloaded, but I've got two at the top here that actually are. So if I go through into my home page in the mobile app, you can see here that that home page that we looked at with all that information is going to be really useful for a project manager to be able to just make decisions on a project. It's all there. It's all for me to be able to just quickly see my overdue issues, look at my ongoing issues, quickly get to reviewed sheets. And very interestingly, actually, what I can do right at the top, this is new. If I'm on site, perhaps at the beginning of the day, I'd be looking at this and I could just take a photo and just add it to the project from here. So I can quickly demonstrate taking a photo in the system. So I'll just take a picture of my laptop. Very interesting site today. One of the things that you can do in here, which is quite cool as well, is you can actually mark up as well. So you don't have to take it out, go into another platform, create a markup, etc. You can do that directly through the photo, and you can do that at any point. I can add a tag. So I can just say create tag, and then as a laptop. Cool, and then done. And so really easy just to quickly take a photo. I mean, you do this kind of on site a lot when you head, you just see something, you need to take a photo, perhaps just make sure that you've got it referenced. And by just being able to take a photo like that, it just means that you can just add that to your photos and we're done. Like I say, that's on the home page. You've got access to the recently viewed sheets, recently viewed files that you have as well. But yeah, like I said, a page to really kind of make decisions from. So within the app, I've got all of my sheets as well. This would be a very much longer list, probably on a project. But if I'm looking for something, if I am trying to find that drawing, again, it's all searchable. So I can just search for a drawing. I'm looking for 102. There's a few drawings here. So, I mean, if I've maybe done some markups myself, or if I've published markups, or if I'm looking for a tag photo or a specific version, I can use all of that to find exactly the drawing I'm looking for. So I've got some markups on one of the drawings in here, and I can just find that really easily. So maybe I did some markups yesterday, and I just want to find those things. I can quite easily use this to find, out of maybe 100 or 1,000 drawings, very easily find exactly what I'm looking for. But the two drawings that we have at the beginning here, they were the ones that I uploaded. So they are in S4. We've got these two drawings here. And at the top of this page, as I mentioned, you can use the compare feature within the app. So what I could do in here is if I grab my S2 version of this, overlay the two on top of each other. And what I can do here is I can actually see what the changes have been. So you can see here, I've got those doors changed here. And if I'm on site and I am installing something and I've been sent a new drawing, but not much information about exactly what's changed, this is quite a useful way, like I said, just making sure that you trust what exactly you were expecting to see in the drawing has changed. And it's just done this very quickly. It's actually done this quicker than it has done on the browser to find those changes. So obviously I can review my drawing. Like most platforms, you've got the ability to create markups very easily. So I can just create a quick markup on this table here and just say maybe I was expecting to see that gone. Get rid of that, or just say remove. There we go. Add a markup. And then it's quite easy to edit as well, actually, as well. My fingers are pretty fat and my phone is pretty small and I'm not doing a too bad job there. And then with these markups as well, you can then choose to publish them as well. So if you want them to other people to be able to see them, you just need to then publish those afterwards as well. Just there we go. The other cool thing about this as well is that, like I say, you do go to site and you do end up taking a lot of photos of just things. And from here as well, what I can do is I can grab this photo pin, pop the photo pin on my drawing, take a new photo. Sorry, there's nothing more interesting in front of me than my laptop. Again, I could go through the same process. I'm not going to do a markup or tag this. I'll just hit save. There we go. And now I have, just move that near the wall there. I just have a photo pin that anybody can get to back in the office or anywhere else. And it's just something very quick. It's something very easy to do. If you are just walking around site, you just perhaps just not really doing a form, you've just seen something and you need to be able to communicate that. You can just pop a little photo on a spot in your drawing. Obviously, if you're looking for something a bit more formal, so for instance, maybe we've seen some incandescent paint been chipped on a column or something along those lines, then we can actually create an issue. So if we're saying perhaps it's a something on site, we've just noticed something, I think we've just got observation here. So I'm going to choose an observation for a quality issue. I'll just put damaged paint. And this is where we can create an issue and we can add lots and lots of information. These are actually customizable, so you can add your own fields if you have things that are more specific to you. We can add a description. We can add who this is going to be assigned to. So if we need this action fairly quickly and we know who we need to get this action by, we can assign it to someone. We can give them a start date for when they might need to do that. We can say a due date, give them a day, we'll be nice about it. And if there were other things that we needed to reference, so if there were, say, RFIs or assets, perhaps we've seen a damaged AHU unit, then we can actually attach all of those things to this issue. And obviously with this, I can add an image as well, exactly the same as before. And now I'll just have a pin on the drawing. That person will get that notification to say that this issue is assigned to them. And they'll then be able to go through to this drawing and just review exactly what the issue is with the drawing as well. So these are a lot of things that you might be doing on site. They're not necessarily attached to a form. They're just things that you might need to do when you're walking around and you just need to get information back to the right person, or you just need the information later on. You don't want to just take a photo and just have it on your phone because you'll probably just either forget or you'll never find it again. So there's some really nice options for being able to actually just take down information quickly. And so I'm doing this all from the Sheets area. And like I say, the Sheets area should, when we're talking about Autodesk Build, contain the information I need to construct from. So it should contain the latest and greatest drawings. That's the idea of what the Sheets area is all about. And that's why it's so easy to find things. It's so easy to create markups, issues, reference things within it. And just, yeah, making sure that all that information is in a nice, easy to find spot. We also have access to the for the field area in terms of files. So if we were looking at perhaps installation guides, perhaps not drawings, then we can actually access those through the for the field area. I quite like the way this is laid out because when it creates PDFs, you're not having to search through each page in the PDF. You can just flick across to the next, which is it's just a bit easier to work with. It's quite a nice interface to be able to find the pages you're looking for in an installation guide or a spec sheet. So we can store and we can use other forms of documents as well, and they would be from the files area rather than the sheets area. So now we come on to the forms area. And we've already done a little demonstration of how the forms area works. But what I'm going to do is I will find a form that I'm going to create. So that GCO1 might be something that I'm looking to work on. So I've got my GCO1 organization checklist. I've gone to side. I just need to go through this and just make sure that everything is organized in terms of what this checklist is asking me. So I've started the checklist, and what I'm going to do is if I just head to my view, I can see in here, it's actually filled in most of the information, start location in this case, but I would fill this in very much like I would do the paper copy. So that change from somebody going from paper to digital PDF is made very easy because they'll be looking at exactly the same form perhaps they've been looking at for the last however long they've been doing the forms for. And then in here, I would just work my way down this list, and you can actually set the smart PDF so that you can't accidentally click to, because like I said, my fingers are pretty chubby, so it would be quite easy for me just to accidentally click about 1 million ticks there. So I can work my way through this, making sure everything's filled in. I've actually not set the smart PDF properly down there. I can work my way through this, head all the way to the bottom. That's yes for all of these. And then if I've got a signature, I can also add smart signatures to this. That's not my real signature. It's filled in a lot of the information there at the bottom as well for me. So really easy and a lot of work already done by just filling in some of those text fields. It can be quite a pain sometimes to fill things in on your phone, but you can actually get it to automate a lot of those things. And then once I'm done, I can hit save. I've asked this to include the weather. You can actually include it to emit. And again, at the bottom, exactly the same as issues, and really going back to the PowerPoint and the idea of this system, all the information can be attached to other things as well. So if this form was part of another form, I can add that other form to this form. I can add photos to the form. I can add files, assets, and make sure that all the information that relates to this form is connected directly to this form here. So I'm going to hit submit this off, and then I have underneath my GCO1 a recently submitted form for me to be able to use. Ooh, got a little issue here. Not sure what's quite happened. Let me just turn my phone, turn it the other way up. There we go. Hopefully that wasn't like that too long. I was staring at my phone rather than the screen. So that's a smart PDF, and they're really easy to set up once you've set them up, once they are set up. So like I say, in terms of change management, that makes this system a lot easier to go from this to digital, just because you're using the same PDFs, the same paper copies that you probably have been using for however long. Now, just time-wise, I'll quickly run through some of the other things that you have access to in here. We've already really kind of discovered what these look like, just not in a mobile format. Some of the useful things that you can do, like I say, if you're on site, you are looking into your assets, you're looking at your air-cooled chiller that you've maybe been installed by someone else, but you're quality inspecting it. I can then go into, I can very easily find the one I'm looking for 995. Cool, got my primary water pump. I can then, from here, there is the option as well to actually create barcodes and connect barcodes into here. So if you have got thousands of items, you can create a barcode system, scan the barcode from here and go directly to the asset, which just saves you that search bit at the beginning. And then from my assets, I can create pictures. So I can take a picture of that pump, save that out. I could then create a form for that pump. So maybe I've got a specific quality inspection that I'm doing here. Maybe that pump has been welded to something within my model. So I need to do my weld checklist. I can go to my welding and cutting, and I can just run through this and say, ooh, just say yes to this. So this form actually asks me specifically to take photos when I'm answering some of these questions, which is just something you can do. You can force either issues or photos to be taken in the questions if you need to. So I run through this exactly the same as I would the other form. This form is actually created not with a smart PDF, but as sort of sections and rigid answers, but exactly the same as before. And when this is done, if I just hit done, I haven't finished it, so it's still in draft. You can see here it's added to this asset, which means I could go into that form and I can go back to the asset. I can go into the asset and go to the form. I could go into my photos, find the picture of the pump and get to my form. All the information that I've just put in here is connected. It allows me to get to everything through anything that's been put into any part of my system. So really useful for making sure that all that data is easy to find when the project's done. So that's a bit about the assets. Some of the other parts of this as well, again, RFIs, it's very much the same as the RFIs on the browser, actually. It's very much the same as issues, really. It's just got information relating to RFIs and also a workflow for it as well. So you're obviously getting someone on site submitting an RFI, then they will be sending it to a reviewer and then getting that approved. And the same with submittals. And then in photos, again, really just kind of show how the photos area in here works. If I was to go through to that photo that was just created, I can go to details, I can look at the references, I can get to my welding form from here. So again, really highlighting the connection of all of the information within the system. Ooh. There we go. And if I needed just to add a photo, I've got the option to take a new photo, take a new video, or select from a photo library. So one thing I just wanted to mention here as well, that this system actually does work with videos as well. You can upload videos, you can upload photos. I found out recently you can actually upload GIFs as well, which don't know anyone doing that on site, but Teams has definitely taken a GIF direction. So perhaps if you did want to convey things to your fellow construction workers through the power of GIFs, you could do that in here as well. And then obviously with the meeting side of things, I've got all the meetings that I have access to. I can just quickly go into here. So again, if I'm doing a meeting with some people back in the office, I'm on site, it's a Teams meeting, I can do it all through my phone. So really leveraging that kind of collaboration, that remote working, dispersed teams, and the ability to make sure that everybody has access wherever they are to the information that they need. And then last in here, I have the schedules. I only have that one schedule loaded into here. And the way that we look at this is we've got an itemized task list and then the completion for each of those specific parts of the schedule. It's in beta, but there's certain things that you can do in here. So you can search for things by milestones, whether they're critical, start dates. You can see things ascending into descending. But this is just going to be improved on. This is something that is already really powerful, but Autodesk are really looking to move this forward in terms of what you can do to make sure that you have a really good idea of what's actually happening in the project. And so that pretty much covers all of the ability on a mobile device. There is loads of power to be able to connect the information, like I say, from drawing to photo, from photo to form, from form to asset. And wherever you are in the system, whether you're in the assets area, whether you're in the photos area, you can get to that information and then follow it through to whatever it was created against. So I'm just going to come out of Autodesk Build and I'm going to move on to Autodesk Takeoff. What I'll quickly do, just close this down, give you that warning. There we go. So I do apologize. The reason that we probably had so many technical difficulties was for the very reason that I was just trying to attach my mobile device to the system. We think that did throttle the ports that we were trying to actually connect to. So that fantastic demo that I just did was the reason that we were having a few minor details. Many thanks to the team that managed to get around that. The one thing that I will depart on this side of things is the insight side of things in the system. So when you are creating all the information, the issues, the forms, you can, like we looked at in the PowerPoint, you can create reports from these. So whether it's RFIs that you want to specifically look at or issues, whether it's issue detail, which will include the photos and the attachments, or it's just an issue summary, you just want to know what the overdue issues are, who they're assigned to, you can create a report based on any of the information within here. So that's really useful if you're, say, a manager who just wants the information for a specific thing on a specific day or a specific time. So we have, as examples, overdue issues assigned to the architect. We could have overdue issues assigned to all the disciplines. We can filter by any of the information we've got in the issues. So we could just have overdue, I mean, we could go down to detail here, overdue design issues that are specifically assigned to me, which is going to be pretty much every single one in this project, to be honest. And you can create templates for these. So there are actually a lot more in here. And like I say, you can schedule these out if you need to as well. And then some of the other information side of things that you've got in here, you have an insight module, which I will just quickly look at because it does really kind of link up with what we've been talking about, the data side of things, the having information at your fingertips. So on a project, you'll have various things that perhaps are more important to you: safety, quality, risk, design, project controls, etc. So when we're looking at the information we've got here, these are going to be added to, and these are actually out of the box. You can customize these, but they relate to the specific things or the specific types of issues that relate to those things. So for example, quality. I think about some quality. I don't have any quality issues in here. Don't have any risk issues. It's a bit annoying. Don't have any safety issues. That's also annoying. But what would happen in the project is, as this project progressed, if we had safety issues, if we had issues that were a safety type, we would actually see in here a building up of the information, and we would see a subcontractor safety risk assessment, which essentially would be a list of subcontractors that have had a lot of issues but against them, and then ones that have not had many. So perhaps that welding checklist that I was doing, if I was going to site and I'd done that form with, I don't know, 20 or 30 items that had been welded, and all of them had 3 or 4 issues put against them, you might find that that welding supplier or that welding subcontractor is put very high on the risk, probably more likely on the quality side of things, in terms of things, just subcontractors that we might want to either look out for or maybe look for a bit more training in. And one of the new things that you can do with this as well is you can actually create your own custom dashboard as well. So what I've done in here is I've just linked up a few of the models that I have in the project. Perhaps I'm a manager who just needs to be able to see the most recent model that's being worked on. This is actually connected directly to the collaboration model that's inside or being worked on in the collaboration area. So I've got all my 2D sheets and my 3D views. I can just see in a little area here, rather than having to actually go into that model. And there are various integrations as well with other applications. So if you use Faro or if you use any other number of apps, there's a lot of integrations with Autodesk Docs that allow you to connect that information across. So this is actually Faro Web Scene. I can walk around a point cloud that's hosted in the cloud. I can also connect to just lots of other systems as well. There's one called EarthCam, which is essentially a camera you can put on site and have a live feed to this area here. So some really nice options if you're looking to perhaps use other third-party integrations with the system. And then I've got at the top here an example of probably what you would more ideally like to see, which is perhaps all the issue activity added versus closed. So we've got quite a few more added than we have closed. We've got a very disproportionate number of issues in this project that have not been completed, shall we say. So we got, essentially the idea here is we've got all of that information. We've got all the information to view and make decisions on. And the other options as well with Autodesk Build is that it comes with this data connector. Now, I'm not going to be able to do this in the session. It does take a little while for that to be created. But to give you an idea of what you can get from this, if you are someone who uses Power BI, or if you're into any sort of analytics software, you can essentially export to, or you're exporting to a number of Excel sheets with the information from the project. So issues created, things like that. And you can put them out into Power BI, and you can just essentially interrogate or data analyze every project that you've got going on at that moment in time. Or you can filter by certain things. And Autodesk have actually given out a few Power BI templates. So it's actually really easy to set this up if you needed to. So if anyone has any interest in doing that, then please do contact us. We can help out with that kind of thing as well. You will need Autodesk Build to be able to do that. And there is an executive overview, and this is more if you're, say, someone at a very high level who just needs to have an idea of the kind of projects you're working on, where there might be risk, projects with a lot of risk in them and things like that as well. So all of that information is not going to waste. You can get to it, you can interrogate it, it's all connected, like I said. Okay, so that's Autodesk Build. I'm going to go into Autodesk Takeoff. I haven't got the most time to be able to complete this Autodesk Takeoff demonstration, but like Nathan's already said, I really like this. It's really easy to use, and it's a system that really centralizes takeoff information. I've done takeoffs in my previous lives at different companies, and I definitely, well, we definitely did not have a system that allowed us to centralize the information and access the information to what the designers were doing, or perhaps even kind of the updates that were happening as live as this would allow you to do. So there's 3 steps to setting this up. Like I say, it makes it very easy. The first thing you need to do is set up the classification system. So if you're going to be doing takeoffs on walls, what's the name you want to give that wall? Like, how do you want to classify them? Will plasterboard be 4, 5, 6? Will brick be 1, 2, 4? It's essentially just making sure that you've got a naming system in your takeoff system that's going to align with perhaps where this costing system you might be using to actually put the takeoff into. You then need to upload the 2D and 3D files. So this simply means you just need to put in the PDFs and the models that you're going to be doing the takeoffs from. So that's very easy to do as well. And there's ways of actually just pushing models directly from the files area or PDFs directly to your sheets and models area to do that. So that's a very easy step to complete as well. And then finally, you just need to do the takeoff. So to create the takeoff, you need to create what are called packages, and these will probably align with your scope of works or however you want to break down your takeoffs. But essentially, it allows different people to work in different areas and create different takeoffs. So going into a bit of, or just quickly having a look at some of the areas we've got in here. So I've actually already got some sheets, and I've already got a 3D model in here. But it's very easy to get your 3D models into this area. So like I say, a lot like we did in Autodesk Build, when you want the latest either model or PDF, you can just go into the files area, find what it is you want, grab it, and then just publish that to your sheets and models area. Or if it's PDFs, you can just grab those PDFs and you can just publish that to Takeoff, to the Takeoff and sheets and models. So you don't have to have anything locally. Everything you can still do on the cloud. You can be anywhere you want, and you can make sure that you have that latest drawing to be able to do the takeoff on. So once you've got that latest drawing or the model, depends on which way you want to work, you then create what's called a package. So what I'll do in here is I will do a takeoff based on doors. So I go for a create package. Just keep it simple, I'll just call it doors. So create my package. So this takeoff is going to be specifically for the doors in the project. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bit of a hybrid takeoff. I'll do a takeoff based on a drawing, and then I'll do a takeoff based on a model, just so you can get a feel for both options. So one of the things that I can do when I'm in this area is I can just bookmark the things that I am going to be doing the takeoffs from. And this just means that they're at the top of the list whenever I come into this takeoff. So anyone who's done a takeoff will know that one of the first things you need to do is to scale the drawing. So this drawing is at 1:200. What I can just do in here is I can just go, well, as long as someone's output is right, I can just set the scale at 1:200. Easy peasy, that's done. What I would probably also do as well is just for my own, if I was doing any measurement takeoffs rather than what I'm going to be doing, which is count takeoffs, I might just do a quick calibration, or even just maybe just a quick check actually, just to check that this door is as wide as I think it should be at 1:200. And yeah, I don't know what the width of this door is. I don't think there are any measurements to actually do a takeoff, which is pretty standard as well. But this really allows me to just quickly change the scale of my drawing. Then what I need to do is I just need to do a takeoff. So I'll just do a single door takeoff to begin with. So if I do create takeoff type, this is going to be a count. We can choose a particular shape. This could be based on the standard within your company in terms of which shape you choose, potentially for doors, let's say. We can choose a color. Again, if you've got multiple teams working on this, it could be useful to colorize things so that they're specific to your team. And then one of the things that I didn't go into detail about, but I have already set up, is the classification system. So I've used Uniclass for one of the classifications. I actually I have the NRM as well loaded into here as well. So if I look for single doors, write doors, see what I get. Go with, I wasn't entirely sure what the doors would give me with the Uniclass. So I'll just go for doors and windows. Maybe not, we'll go that. I'll go elements, doors and windows. So EF 2530. It's going to be a count. If it was a length or if it was an area, then they're the kind of things I can do. I can actually do cubic meters in here as well. So this allows me to choose an area and give it a height so that I can actually quite easily get meters cubed out of this as well if I'm doing concrete takeoffs. So that's a real benefit if you are looking at using this traditional 2D workflows. And if I wanted that secondary output, like I say, I've put the NRM system in here, so you can have up to 2 classification systems. I'm not sure if I've got single as well. I'll just choose, if we got internal doors. I'll just use something random. Doesn't matter too much. You'd know the system if you were doing takeoffs all day, every day. I can then start the takeoff. Make sure it's got a name first, single doors. And then if I start the takeoff, the way that this works is I just click on where those single doors are. It would be the same if I was doing a measurement, if I'm doing a takeoff. This is very much going to be a traditional workflow. This is going to be how, if you have done takeoffs before, you perhaps doing them, maybe you're just looking at a sheet and just counting the doors, and you can very easily see which ones you've done and which ones you haven't. So the option here for doing this takeoff, it's probably going to take me quite a while. I've got about 6 stories on this building to do this takeoff from. It's going to take me a little while to do it based on a paper copy, but this has been created from a 3D model. So I could do this takeoff, instead of doing it 2D, I could do it 3D, I could do it a little bit quicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to head to my 3D model to do this takeoff instead. But just to quickly show you what's actually happening with that takeoff, it's all being put into what's called the inventory. And I have a very long list of doors here that are coming up every time. So if I'm looking for a specific one, I can easily just find that within the system by using my inventory to get to it. And this is what you would then output typically to say costing. Maybe if you've got something that's you're using to cost your project, you could output this to that cost. So you've already created the classification system, linked up with the costs, and you can figure out how much the project is going to cost based on the takeoff. So if we move away from the idea of using 2D and perhaps just doing the takeoff through PDFs, we have a 3D model with this. Why not use the 3D model? So what I can do here is I've loaded this architect's model in. It's created the PDFs that we're actually using to do the takeoff. And as you can see here, we've got a lot of different ways to view the model. I can go into the model and I can find the doors, but I'm probably going to struggle to actually get to the doors here and do the takeoffs from this. So what I can do here is I can use this form clusters option to explode the model into all of its pieces. So we've got things like floors, walls, doors, stairs, etc., all nicely laid out on a table for me to do a takeoff from. So then I can just find my doors in here. So where are you, doors? Just missing them. Maybe we've got the wrong model. Probably just being blind. There they are. So if I wanted to be a bit quicker about actually finding this, maybe on a bigger project, then I can actually just search for doors within the model. And I could, in theory, very easily just quickly find it. I was just doing that the long-winded way. So I've got all my doors here, and I can see I've got all my single doors lined up, all my double doors lined up. I think some of these have different sizes, so I would probably do takeoffs based on the different sizes. Head to my takeoffs, and if I just right-click on this, I could select all of the specific type here, and this is the 813 by 2134. If I just click on one over here, this one is actually a wider door, so I can do all my takeoffs individually for each width of door. That would have been actually pretty difficult to do in 2D, to be honest. So I can select everything here. I can then do create takeoff. Automatically, it's going to look at the type that I've chosen and fill in the name. I can just type in single doors to put a bit more information in here. give this a color. So I'm going to give this a bit more of a kind of less dory colored color so you can see what happens next. Exactly the same as before. Give it a code, doors and windows. I will not bother with the second output in this case. And there is options in here to choose other parameters that will map across to give you your output. So if you are looking at doing, say, steel tonnage or volume, or concrete tonnage or volume, then you can actually get a lot of the information from Revit and map it across to this. And then even once you've got that, then do calculations to figure out exactly, maybe you've got extra tolerances you need, etc. So you can do pretty detailed takeoffs from here with your 3D model because you've got all of those parameters. If I hit start takeoff, I've now done all of those doors in one go. And I've got all the same type. And what this will actually do as well, so if I just go into my classification down here, so I'll have the doors, and I can just, if I wanted to, either edit the output that I've got there, and just very easily see exactly what it is that I have in my project. And so that form clusters there is a very nice way if you're looking to get sort of your model laid out for you to be able to do the takeoff from. It's very easy to do that. Of course, if you wanted to, you can actually look at it as the model. And if you're someone who's very systematic, you could also use the levels to do the takeoff based on the levels that have come out of the project. So the way that we were looking at the previous project was based on, the PDF was based on levels. And so I could use the levels in the 3D to do that takeoff as well. So just turn that off. And so really what we're doing here is we're utilizing that 3D model. It is, at the end of the day, it's creating the 2D drawings, and therefore the accuracy of the model will reflect the accuracy of the PDFs. And so really we're just saving ourselves time by using all the information in the groups that already exist within Revit to create that takeoff. So it makes the takeoffs a lot quicker, and there's a lot of potential for time savings in here. And what you've seen as well with this is that you can run a hybrid. If you've still got things that you really want to run as a 2D takeoff, and you really have a nice workflow with specific items, you could go down the route of using PDF. There's a lot of knowledge that estimators have that are specific to noticing mistakes, or just noticing kind of things within the drawings themselves. And if there's elements, specific elements that are going to require that 2D takeoff, you can still use that workflow. But if, say, for instance, doors or maybe concrete, they're things that are going to be quite easy to make sure that the model is correct. You could use the 3D model for specific things like concrete, steel tonnages. And if it is somewhere early in the project, you could much more easily do takeoffs at early stage bidding and tender, so that you can more quickly get a price back to anybody who's asking for it by using that 3D model if it's something that you've been given. And the thing I like about the system is that it is centralized. You do have access to it on any browser. We've been doing all of this on a browser. It's not shoved in my drawer. It's not on my local drive. I can, if I want to, pick up a Google Chrome, head to a browser, and I can just then log in. So it makes this a very easy to use and kind of collaborative as well option for doing takeoffs in a project. So that's been a very much whistle-stop tour of both Autodesk Build and Autodesk Takeoff. I hope there's been some useful takeaways. I will apologize again for the technical difficulties that we had at the beginning. What we're going to do now is Nathan's going to do a quick wrap up, and we're going to do some questions that have come up during this session. So like I say, I hope it's been useful, and thanks very much for dealing with the issues that we had earlier on.
Just bear with us for a few seconds, guys, while we just switch over to the other screen, and Nathan will wrap us up. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you very much for that, Johnny. I always enjoy Johnny's talk, especially around the Autodesk Construction Cloud. We're very fortunate to have someone that knows not only the software that's come out, but also being able to connect. I know Johnny spends a lot of time connecting with the relevant teams in Autodesk to keep his ear to the ground to what's going on with the ACC solutions. As you may well know, Autodesk University is actually about to start tomorrow. So whilst we've been showing a lot of features here, there are going to be a few updates. We're not expecting too many wholesale changes, given that the Autodesk Construction Cloud was only announced a year ago. in that respect. However, we will by all means communicate any additional bits with you. So often is the case, I think, just to wrap up really in terms of the questions that are asked to us, is it's all well and good looking at these softwares and this technology, but how do you actually then look to onboard them? And I think that's the challenge, not in terms of that you face as the customer or the person actually using the software and the tools, but also in terms of us being able to make sure it fits for you. Every organization is completely different in terms of actually what you'll be using, but also just in terms of the challenges you have in terms of personnel, different offices, sites, be it different countries and whatnot. And I think it's important just to show you, and for many people that have come on our Future of Design and Build events, the kind of like the roadmap that we put in place for people is all too familiar. And if I was to show you the graphic now, so in terms of the kind of the steps that we take, it's very similar to what you've probably seen earlier on with like Docs and also BIM Collaborate Pro when we were showing those a few weeks back. But I think for anything that you're looking to do, you have to start with and have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you'll buy the software, you'll do some user training, they'll stop, they may move on from the business, they may stop using the software due to that project finishing, and all of a sudden you've lost all of the actual value, all of the skills that you had in those areas. So not just in terms of putting a basic onboarding plan together, which we would typically do in terms of like initial startup, get using it, define the workflow, have a pre-scope, but then starts to come the training. This will be from an admin point of view, which is really important. At the end of the day, too often do we find that someone is running a common data environment or a software that's likened to Autodesk Build, Takeoff, or the umbrella of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. But then they're running something alongside it, be it a Dropbox, be it another tool where they're file sharing, and it just defeats the whole purpose of you actually then going out procuring such a type of software. By having a proper plan in place, by actually setting out and making sure that you are able to get the people and the teams, your projects in place and get the teams using it, then you can start to actually then say really tailor the user training, give them what they need to know, and make sure they're able to use the software, and then it becomes like continual improvement as the software evolves or if your requirements evolve. We also have a number of bolt-on services, and these are really, really important. Docs is the core side. So in terms of the two bigger circles and kind of the first half of the graphic you see there, then starts to come the different variants in terms of BIM Collaborate Pro, BIM Collaborate. We talked about Takeoff today. We talked about Build. Being able to use the document management system and then the extra functionality that Johnny has just shown you earlier on today, you need to spend time on that. Trying to actually just brush it all up in a day's training. I mean, you and I both know that just doesn't work, and it will lead to people feeling that they're not given the time to learn the software, that they don't have the ability or they don't have the skill set to actually do their jobs in that respect. They become very reticent towards the software, and ultimately it fails. So actually having a proper plan in place around the training part and with the bolt-ons and different variants of Construction Cloud is vitally important. Once you've done that, then we look at the future, okay? In terms of documentation, I mentioned about new people coming in, having actually your workflows mapped out and being able to see that, what's expected of them. If they are not using it as they should do, then you can provide them and refer them back to that documentation. That's a big part. The videos are also a huge part, and for reasons I've just mentioned, in terms of new people coming into the business, people exiting, project stopping, new ones starting, different members of the team using it, you've got some videos to actually refer back to that. I mean, this isn't just in terms of the Autodesk Construction Cloud, having videos for key functions of anything that you do in terms of your professional life. And I think for the more, probably the more complex procedures, you've got something the team can go back to, and they can then just start to learn and reinforce their knowledge in that respect. We then look at potential health check. This has been quite, well, there's two sides to this. You can either do it yourself, or we often have quite a few customers that ask us to come back in 6 months, 12 months time and just make sure that people are adopting the software, are using the folder structures, are using the process you put in place properly, and we can advise back into the team. You've been able to do that sometimes is quite difficult, not just in terms of actually with potentially software changing somewhat or making small subtle changes here and there, but the time part, that's the biggest problem, having time to actually dedicate that to that and making sure that it's been used properly. So that's the onboarding process for Autodesk Construction Clouds. I appreciate there are a number of steps there. Some take a lot less time than others, but I think that if you are, I think from our point of view, if you're ever going to look at onboarding the program, and also I suppose one bit of advice from us is having that roadmap, having that journey in place will help you no end. And we use this graphic quite a few times. You've seen it with Dynamo, that we had the event last week. The other areas of Construction Cloud, we talk about the onboarding process with things like Revit still, and the other tools in the Autodesk portfolio. Having a tried and tested approach, having a plan always works. So this is kind of like the steps that we often try to take with our customers. Just wrapping up before I go to questions. So we do have another event, if I can click through, just on, well, it's actually in a couple of weeks' time. So on the 20th of October, slightly away from the Autodesk remit in terms of what we've shown you. It is the final Future Design and Build series before we start to actually then look at what we're doing towards the tail end in early next year. This one's probably the biggest one that we've had for a number of years now, since we actually ran a physical event and we had, or on-site event, we had people visiting us, and I didn't have to stare at a camera and try and talk to you, actually being able to see the whites of your eyes. We've got two special guests that are joining us. One that's recognised to Man and Machine, and Phil Reeds, who's putting his Building Smart hat on in terms of the work that he's been doing on the training and professional certification programme, and being seconded into Building Smart and also CDBB. But we also have Ian Ronksley joining us from UCAS and talking about what's going to be happening going into later in the year. As many of you know on the call, with the, I suppose, BIM, if you want to call it that, or digital ways of working, we now have ISO standards that came in January 2019. As with anything, it does take a bit of time, especially with people that are dedicating their own free time to actually the kind of the good of the industry in that respect, to get things moving. But we're about to have quite a big announcement coming up in the next few months that I would personally, and I'd definitely say you need to be there to see it. If this is affecting you in terms of your projects and BIM's becoming a requirement, or even more so, you're looking for some sort of certification or accreditation, which plenty of customers asked us about. We've never had a proper industry recognised one. There's certainly been different flavours of that, but to have UCAS certifying against an ISO standard, there is some big news coming. So join us on the 20th of October. A final thing on that, there are limited spaces. It's been really popular so far. The team over the last couple of days have confirmed quite a few people from our customers on there. So go onto our website, www.manandmachine.co.uk. On the middle part, there is an events page, and on there you will find the link to sign up. So get signed up, join us on the 20th. I will be there myself, and I'll be chairing the talk with Phil Reeds and Ian Ronksley. So to go on to some questions, we have had a few in the chat. I am just going to get move off screen and bring Johnny back on. And if I, how would you like to run this, Johnny? If I ask you the questions, I'll go through them on there. Do you want to come on?
I just have them up on the.
Yeah, do you want to bring them? Yeah, okay. Fantastic. So we have had a few people message us in our chat box. Just to go to the first question from Rob. The first question is, are you coming on?
Yeah.
Do you want to come on, Johnny? I'll squeeze out of the way. So
I'll take that.
there you go. You can see Johnny finally. So he's in the bottom of the corner now. For everyone that hasn't met or seen Johnny before. So the first question is from Rob. Do I need to buy licenses for other contractors I work with, or can they buy their own and plug in?
Yeah. So with the new Autodesk platform, the new ACC platform, all of them, so everything we've covered in the Future of Design and Build series, they're all bring your own subscription service now, which means you've got much more flexibility in terms of what you want to do. If you want to buy others a license to join you, you can do. If you need others to buy licenses, they can buy the licenses and then bring the licenses to you, because it's a bring your own subscription service now. So there is a lot more flexibility, and it does allow kind of a more of a framework system. So if you know anybody who's got the licenses, you can invite them, and there's no need for you to buy extra licenses or for them to buy licenses if they've already got them. Everyone can just invite each other to their own projects and use the modules that they have purchased themselves. So that bring your own subscription service is, like I say, much more flexible.
We have another question from Sam. How many projects can I have in my hub? And also, how much information does it hold?
Yeah, so on the Autodesk Construction Cloud, you can have as many projects as you want. There might be a bit of a caveat, very nuanced caveat to that in terms of the Autodesk build, and depending on whether you or what kind of structure of license you go for. But certainly it is as many projects as you want. And then in terms of how much information, the platforms themselves, they are unlimited in storage. So as much as you want. There is no limit to information. There's no limit to the amount of information that you can store on them. And it will store every single version of all of your documents, drawings, models as well. So you've got a full paper trail of everything that's happened, all of that stored. Unlimited storage though. I think there is a limit in terms of how much you can upload at one time, which I think is 2 terabytes. So you should be all right, I think. Maybe it's 500 gigabytes. One of the two, but I think pretty much if you hit 500 gigabytes, you're in a special place. Anyway, so
I think this is quite closely linked to his next question. So can I store surveys and point cloud data up in the cloud?
Yep. So you can store point cloud. They have added the ability recently to be able to view point clouds inside of Autodesk Docs as well. But certainly, yeah, if you are getting some very large point cloud data, you can store that in the cloud if you wanted to keep it off your servers and actually then view it as well. And in theory, you can actually store anything you want on the system, even if it's something completely non-Autodesk related. The only thing you won't be able to do is view it on a browser. It could, in theory, work exactly the same as, say, Dropbox does, when you can just open a document locally, but it's not actually something that will open up in the browser. So yeah, absolutely, point clouds can be stored on the system.
Brilliant. Okay, I think we'll take a final question from John. Can I use the app that you showed on screen in my Docs subscription?
So we were looking at Autodesk Build and Autodesk Takeoff. They are 2 separate modules. So with just Autodesk Docs, you will not be able to use those. You can get trials, 30-day trials, which will absolutely give you kind of the kind of ability to be able to use those, get a feel for them, find out whether they're right for you. But with the AEC collection, you do get Autodesk Docs, which I'm sure that's probably how you've got a license to Autodesk Docs. But these are add-ins to Autodesk Docs. So Collaborate Pro, which we looked at last week, I think, and then Autodesk Build and Autodesk Takeoff, they all sit on top of Autodesk Docs. So they would be paid for modules on top of Autodesk Docs as well.
Brilliant. Cool. I think that's all for the questions for now. I know there are a few others on there which we'll go back to. Their names known to us, so I think we'll reach out on there directly. If there are any more questions, please feel free to get in touch. As I say, there's a link to the website there. Call us, email us, message us through the chat, and we'll make sure that either myself, Johnny, or one of the team are on hand. We look forward to hopefully seeing you in a couple of weeks' time, our next event. And by all means, keep a lookout for our announcements around the events going into later in the year and early next. We've got a couple which I know, well, Johnny will be back for one of them actually, potentially. So hopefully you'll see those soon. Get signed up and we'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Thanks, guys. See you later. Bye.